Special and heartfelt greeting to all the new faces joining our community for the very first time. My name is Joseph. I stand before you not just as a storyteller, but as a fellow searcher. We are gathered here, united by a common purpose that is greater than any one of us. That purpose is to find Summer Wells, to bring light to the darkness that swallowed her, and to deliver answers to a family that has waited in agony for over 3 years. This is a sacred space. It is a place where we trade in hope, in determination, and in the unwavering belief that the truth can and will be found. The journey is long, and the road is hard, but we do not walk it alone. We walk it together. You are here because you have a conscience. You are here because you have not forgotten. You are here because a little girl's face and name have taken root in your heart, and you refuse to let her story fade into silence. For that, from the bottom of my soul, I thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being a person of conscience in a world that often forgets. God bless you. And God bless Summer Wells. We will not rest until she is found. Now, my friends, this is the moment. This is the time we must dig deeper, push harder, and work with more focus than ever before. The search for Summer is not a passive act. It is an active, living mission. We are the eyes and ears for a child who cannot speak. We are the amplifiers for a truth that is struggling to be heard. I need you with me. I need your minds, your voices, and your shared resolve. So I am asking you, I am calling on you, to join me in this critical work. Drop your comments below. Share your thoughts, your prayers, your insights. Your perspective could be the missing piece. Like this video. That simple click tells the world that Summer's story matters, that it demands attention, and that it must be pushed to the very front of the public's mind. Share this report. Share it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Send it to your family group chats, email it to your friends. Let us create a wave of awareness that crashes over the entire internet, reaching every corner, every town, and hopefully, reaching the one person who holds the key. And please subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. When you do, you are not just following a page. You are enlisting in a search party. You are raising your hand and saying, Joseph, I am here. Count me in. Together, we form a network, a web of light, and together, there is no shadow we cannot penetrate. Now let us begin. Let us go back to the beginning, to understand the path that has led us here. To truly grasp the mystery of Summer Wells, you must first feel the place where she vanished. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. Not a dot on a map, but a living, breathing landscape. Picture the deep, rolling hills of East Tennessee, covered in a thick blanket of trees that seems to go on forever. The air in the summer is heavy and sweet, filled with the sound of buzzing insects and rustling leaves. The roads are narrow, winding ribbons of asphalt that curl around the mountains like tendrils. This is Beech Creek, in Hawkins County. It is a place of breathtaking beauty, but also a place of profound solitude. In these hills, houses are not lined up side by side. They are tucked away, separated by woods and hollows. It is a place where neighbors are family, where history runs deep in the soil, and where a person can feel both completely at home and utterly alone. On one of these winding roads, a road named Ben Hill Road, a family lived in a small house perched on a steep hillside. On a warm Tuesday evening, June 15, 2021, the ordinary rhythm of life there was shattered forever. 5-year-old Summer Munuta Wells was last seen by her brothers. They said she walked out the basement door of their home, a door that led straight into the wild embrace of those Tennessee woods. And then, she was gone. What happened next was a storm of human emotion and desperate action. The alarm was raised. The first sirens pierced the quiet evening air. Soon, the narrow road was lined with police cars, their red and blue lights painting the trees in frantic strokes. Volunteers from the close-knit community arrived, their faces etched with worry. They formed lines and walked into the thick forest, calling Summer's name. Their voices echoed through the hollows, a chorus of hope and fear. Overhead, helicopters appeared, their loud thump-thump-thump beating against the hills as they scanned the endless green with powerful lights and thermal cameras. On the television, her parents, Don and Candace Wells, stood before cameras, their eyes hollow, their voices breaking as they pleaded for their daughter's safe return. The image of Summer's smiling face was everywhere, on flyers, on news broadcasts, in the prayers of millions. In those first hours, the world held on to a fragile hope. The story presented was simple and tragic. A little girl who wandered off and got lost. It was an accident, a terrible twist of fate in a rugged landscape. People sent their prayers and their strength, believing she would be found cold and scared, but alive, in a thicket or by a creek. But as the sun rose on the second day, and the third, that hope began to curdle into something darker. The massive search was finding nothing. No torn clothing, no clear trail, no sign of Summer. The sheer vastness of the wilderness seemed to mock their efforts. It was then that the first, subtle cracks in the simple story began to appear. The public's immense sympathy slowly tangled with a growing, restless suspicion. In the vacuum of answers, questions grew like weeds. The parents, Don and Candace, were placed under a microscope of public opinion. Every interview was analyzed, every past photo examined, every emotion judged. The internet became a courtroom without a judge. Two powerful forces emerged online. One was a wave of pure support, rallied under the hashtag #FindSummerWells. It was a beacon of collective hope, a digital prayer chain that spanned the globe. The other was a current of deep skepticism, flowing under the hashtag #WellsFamilyTruth. This group dissected timelines, pointed out inconsistencies, and questioned everything. The comments on news videos and social media posts became a battleground. Have some compassion! These parents are living every family's worst nightmare, one side would plead. Why aren't they out searching every minute of every day? Something doesn't add up, the other side would counter. The conversation was no longer just about finding a missing child. It became a bitter war over guilt and innocence, played out in real time for the world to see. This war, however, may have been focusing on the wrong battlefield. While the world was locked in a heated debate about the parents, the quiet, professional investigators were following a different trail entirely. A trail not of words and emotions, but of physical, scientific evidence. And that evidence was beginning to tell a story that few were listening to, a story written not in the home, but in the land itself. To understand this, we must go to the first and most faithful of the search partners, the dogs. In the crucial first hours after Summer was reported missing, highly trained Canine search teams were brought to the Wells home. These dogs are more than pets. They are precision instruments. Their sense of smell is tens of thousands of times more powerful than our own. They were given an article of Summer's clothing, a shirt, a blanket, something that carried her unique scent signature. The dogs inhaled her smell, and they went to work. They did not mill around the yard. They did not go to the front of the house. Almost immediately, they caught a scent and led their handlers down a steep, narrow path that cuts through the woods behind the Wells property. The locals call it the dog trail. It is a rugged, sloping track, used by animals and children, winding down the hillside toward the asphalt of Ben Hill Road below. The dogs worked with fierce determination. They followed that invisible ribbon of scent down the dog trail, through the brush and over the roots. They led the searchers all the way to the edge of the road, where the soft forest floor met the hard, black pavement. And right there, at the junction of the wild and the man-made, the dogs stopped. They circled. They sniffed the air. They seemed confused. They could not clearly pick up the trail to tell their handlers which way to go. For the public watching from afar, and for many people commenting online, the conclusion was immediate and seemed obvious. The trail ends at the road because she got into a car. A vehicle pulled up, Summer was placed inside, and the car drove away. The scent vanished because she vanished. It was a clean, simple, and horrifying explanation, a stranger abduction. This conclusion became the bedrock of one of the two main public theories. It fueled the idea of a random predator, a monster passing through who saw an opportunity and took it. It was a story that made a terrible kind of sense. But what if that conclusion, that bedrock belief, was built on a misunderstanding? What if we, the public, misinterpreted what the dogs were telling us? To find the answer, we must listen to the experts, the men and women who work with these incredible animals every day. They explain that a search dog's job is incredibly complex. A dog does not follow a scent the way we follow a painted line on the road. Scent is a living, changing thing. It is affected by everything: the wind, the temperature, the humidity, the surface it lies on. When a person walks on a natural surface like dirt, grass, or leaves, they leave behind a strong, concentrated trail of scent cells. It settles into the ground. For the dog, it is like a bright, clear path. The scent gets stronger as the dog gets closer to the source. This is what the dog is trained to find and follow. But when that person steps onto an artificial surface like asphalt or concrete, everything changes. Especially on a hot summer day, that pavement acts like a griddle. It radiates heat. Scent molecules do not settle. They dance and rise and scatter violently. The strong, clear path suddenly explodes into a confusing cloud. The signal turns to static. The dog is not hitting a wall. It is experiencing a radical drop in signal strength. Its training says to follow a scent that gets stronger. Now the scent is weaker, diffused, broken. This is deeply confusing to the animal. A well-trained handler knows this. They know that a stop, at a change of surface, does not always mean the person vanished here. It often means the conditions of the trail have changed. This is not a small detail. It is a fundamental key that unlocks a door to a different set of possibilities. The dog stopping at the road does not prove Summer got into a car. It proves that the scent conditions changed dramatically at that spot. She could have been put into a car. Or she could have been picked up and carried across the road and into the woods on the other side. Or the person with her could have walked on the road for a short distance, their shoes leaving little scent on the hot pavement, before turning back into the trees elsewhere. The stop is not a period at the end of a sentence. It is a semicolon, a pause in a story that kept going. This understanding, this single piece of knowledge, forces us to re-examine everything. It opens our minds to a scenario that is more complex, more calculated, and in many ways, more frightening than a random snatch and grab. And when we walk through that door of new understanding, we are confronted with the next piece of evidence, a piece that is perhaps the most haunting of all. The search for Summer entered its fourth day. The initial frenzy had settled into a grim, determined exhaustion. Hope was becoming a scarce resource. On the night of June 19th, under the cover of darkness, search teams were still out, combing the woods with flashlights and desperate hearts. On that night, a local man, a landowner whose property sits near the Wells home, made a discovery that would send a cold chill through the entire investigation. In a patch of soft, wet soil on his wooded land, his flashlight beam caught the edge of a perfect, small impression. He knelt down. It was a footprint. A child's bare footprint. His blood ran cold. He knew his own children. He stated clearly that his kids never went barefoot in the woods. This was not their print. Not far away, on his neighbor's property, a second, matching footprint was found. The search teams were called over. The canines were brought to the spot. The dogs alerted immediately. They barked and pulled at their leads. This was Summer's scent. These prints were fresh. They had been made in the days since she disappeared. But there was something deeply unsettling about these footprints. There were only two of them. Just two. And they were not close together, like the steps of someone walking. They were spaced far apart, as if a giant had taken two strides. The landowner himself, a man who knew that land intimately, looked at the pattern and voiced a terrible theory. He said this did not look like a child walking. This looked like a child being carried. Think about it. If you are carrying a child, a small, silent weight in your arms, you might need to put them down for just a second. Maybe to climb over a fallen log. Maybe to adjust your grip. Maybe to catch your breath on the steep incline. The child's foot touches the ground for one brief moment, leaving a single, lonely print. Then you lift them again and continue on your way. This image changes everything. It shatters the picture of a lost little girl wandering through the trees. It paints instead a picture of a child being transported. A silent burden on a secret journey. The location of one of these prints makes this theory even more compelling. It was found high up on a ridge. This is not a place a 5-year-old, lost and scared, would naturally go. It is steep, difficult, and hidden. It is a place you go for one of two reasons: to hide, or to travel across the landscape without being seen from the roads and houses below. When the police and rescue teams found these footprints, they focused all their energy on that specific area. They searched it with a new, desperate intensity. They had a heartbreaking theory. They wondered if someone had taken Summer, but then, seeing the massive police presence and media attention, had panicked. Maybe, they thought, this person brought Summer back and left her in those woods, hoping she would be found. The searchers combed the area with that fragile hope in their hearts. They found nothing. Only those two silent footprints remained, like ghostly markers on a hidden path. For a long time, this footprint evidence was a puzzle that many people, even those following the case closely, did not know how to solve. It was uncomfortable. It did not fit the neat, simple stories of, "She wandered off," or, "A stranger took her in a car." Because it was hard to explain, some people chose to simply ignore it. But you cannot ignore the truth. Evidence does not disappear because it is inconvenient. It waits patiently for someone to put the pieces together. So let us put the pieces together. We have a child who was likely carried. We have a scent trail that led to the road and then changed, but did not necessarily end. We have two footprints on a high ridge. What does this tell us? It tells a story of knowledge, of purpose, of a plan. The person who took Summer Wells knew exactly what they were doing. They knew the land, not as a visitor knows it, but as an owner knows it. They knew how to move through those woods without leaving a clear trail. They knew that the main road, Ben Hill Road, could be a problem. It was a single exit. In the chaos of the search, it might be watched. They knew there were houses, and possibly cameras. So, they avoided it. They chose a different path. They used the woods, the ridges, the natural contours of the land as their own private highway. This was not a random, panicked crime. This was a deliberate act that required a specific, local intelligence. Think about what that means. You would need to know which hidden deer trails to take. You would need to know where one person's property ends and another's begins. You would need to know how to stay behind the tree line, out of sight from the homes below. You would need to know the land like you know the rooms of your own house. This points us away from a stranger, a random passerby. A stranger would not have this knowledge. A stranger would likely use the road and hope to get lucky. This points us squarely towards someone local. Someone for whom Beech Creek is not just an address, but a part of their identity. Someone who is woven into the very fabric of that community. And here, the story takes its most serious and difficult turn. In a small, rural community like Beech Creek, everyone is connected. Families have lived side by side for generations. They are linked by blood, by marriage, by shared history. The name of the road itself, Ben Hill Road, points to one of these deep-rooted families. When you start looking for a person with profound local knowledge, you inevitably start looking at the families whose history is the history of the land. Recently, there was a development in this case so significant it made national news. In November of 2023, the FBI, along with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and local sheriff's deputies, executed a major search warrant. They did not search near the Wells home. They searched a property 9.5 miles away, on Van Hill Road. The property belonged to Paul Hill, a member of the extended Hill family, connected to the Ben Hill namesake. Authorities confirmed this search. While they did not reveal every detail, information from credible sources indicates the search was triggered by a vehicle, a red Toyota Tacoma truck, once connected to the Hill family, that the FBI tracked down. What investigators found inside that truck was significant enough to give them cause to turn that 27-acre property upside down. This is critical. This is no longer an internet theory or a rumor. This is an official, documented action by the most powerful investigative agency on Earth. The connection is now a matter of public record. The FBI's trail, fueled by forensic evidence from a vehicle, led them from the national mystery of a missing girl directly to a specific family's doorstep. The public reaction to this has been a seismic shift. The old, tired debates about the Wells parents have been flooded with new, more urgent questions. New hashtags like #VanHillRoad and #TheHillConnection began to trend. The conversation evolved. It was a local all along. One popular tweet stated, "They knew the land and how to avoid the roads." "But what's the motive?" others asked. "Why would they do this?" A more disturbing thread of discussion emerged, focusing on the simple, terrifying question, #Who knew the way? The questions we face now are harder, sharper, and more specific than ever before. Who is physically capable of carrying a child across that rugged ridge? If they were avoiding the road, where was their final destination that night? How does the FBI's interest in a property miles away connect to the footprints left in the Beech Creek woods? And the most haunting question of all, is the person responsible not a shadowy monster from the outside world, but someone who still lives there? Someone who blends into the community, someone you might wave to at the local store? The weight of this new direction is immense. For Summer's family, it represents a painful and complex turning point. For the close community of Beech Creek, it is a tremor of doubt that shakes the foundation of trust. For us, the public, it is a challenge to think with clarity and courage, to follow the evidence even when it leads to difficult places. We are not here to point fingers at the innocent. We are here to find one missing child. And to do that, we must have the strength to follow the truth, no matter where it leads. Even if it leads into the heart of a quiet community. Even if it leads to a truth that is hard to accept. The story of Summer Wells is no longer just a mystery. It has become a map. A map of a hidden journey through the trees. A map written in scent and footprints. A map that can only be read by someone who knows the territory. Our job is to help the authorities read that map. And this is where I need you. I need you more than ever. Someone watching this right now knows something. You may live in Hawkins County. You may have lived there years ago. You may be connected to the Hill family. You may know those woods like the back of your hand. You may have heard a fragment of a conversation, years ago, that seemed odd but you didn't think much of it at the time. You may have seen something on the day Summer disappeared. A vehicle, a person in the woods, something that didn't belong, and you never mentioned it. It is not too late. No piece of information is too small. Your memory, your knowledge, could be the final piece of this puzzle. You could be the one who brings Summer home. So I am asking you, I am pleading with you from the bottom of my heart, if you know anything, please pick up the phone. Contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The number is 1-800-TBIFIND. You can call. You can remain anonymous. You do not have to give your name. But please find the courage to share what you know. A family is trapped in a nightmare. A little girl is waiting. Your voice could end their suffering. For the rest of us, our duty is clear. We must be the keepers of the light. We must not let the world forget Summer Wells. We must be her voice, her echo, her relentless reminder. So, my friends, let us go to work. Let us do what we do best. Drop your comments below. Share your insights on this new analysis. Do you believe the evidence points to a local person? Who in a small community would have the knowledge and ability to carry out such a plan? Your thoughts could spark a connection in someone else's mind. Like this video. That simple click is a signal. It tells the YouTube algorithm that this story is vital, that it needs to be seen by millions. It helps us push this report to the very front of the public's attention, where it belongs. Share this video. Share it everywhere. On every social media platform you use. In every group chat you're in. Email it to your contacts. Let us create a tidal wave of awareness that cannot be ignored. Let us make the name Summer Wells trend across the entire internet, so that the person with the answer cannot escape hearing it. And please subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. When you subscribe, you are joining our family. You are becoming part of a dedicated search party. You are saying, I am committed to seeing this through. And you will be right here with me, getting every update, every new piece of information, as we follow this trail to its end. This is our mission. This is our shared responsibility. Summer Wells has been missing for over 1,000 days. 1,000 nights of fear, of questions, of tears. That is too long. It is time for this mystery to end. It is time for Summer to come home. With your help, we can do this. With your shares, your comments, your subscriptions, we form a network of light and truth that no darkness can withstand. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being a person of conscience in a world that often forgets. God bless you. And God bless Summer Wells. We will not rest until she is found.